Okay, I have literally just finished watching part 3 of Get Back. Boy, what an episode. Are the Beatles the greatest band in the world? Yes. Is Let It Be the best album they ever made? Far as I'm concerned, yes. Have they been completely misrepresented in the last 50 years? Yes, totally. I mean, this whole episode is really where everything comes together. Most of what ended up on Let It Be was recorded in these last few days. And the film starts with Ringo showing George Octopus's garden, and then George is there sort of showing him and helping him, and they're working out bits together. And then I think John comes in and sort of has a look as well. And then George comes in and says, I've got this new song and it's a rocker. And he starts playing Old Brown Shoe, but he's not quite sure of the chords he's playing. So Billy Preston comes along and helps him work out the arrangement. And George just looks so happy because he's written an upbeat song, because some of the other songs that he wrote were sort of, quite sort of slow. Obviously All Things Must Pass being the sort of standout track. And then everybody else comes in. There's this wonderful bit where Linda comes in with her daughter Heather, and Heather's there just having great fun with her new stepfather's friends, and they're doing a track, and Paul says to Ringo, he says, can you sort of ease back a bit on it, because the hats are a little bit too heavy. What he doesn't realise is Heather's behind the drum kit with Ringo, playing the hi-hats in time to what they're doing. And I mean, this little kid, he's probably only 3 or 4 at the time. And then they have a little bit of a jam, and just to ease into the day, and Yoko's singing, and then Heather joins in, and they're just having the best fun they could have. So I really think Lindsay-Hogg has done a massive disservice to the Beatles when he did the original Let It Be film, because it is clearly obvious he just didn't look at all the rushes. I mean, there is just so much stuff that was just left and ignored. And basically, apart from the rooftop bit and the bit where they're doing Dig It. Incidentally, I mentioned yesterday that I thought that they would have shown more of the song Dig It. As it turns out, the bit that ended up on the album was done after the bit that was in yesterday's episode. But anyway, it's just great. The band are really playing well. They're getting on. It's interesting that George Martin is very much kind of, he's always present, and he's even though Glyn is doing the mixing and the whatever, George Martin's still in charge. And Alan Parsons comes in as the tape operator, and I think it was Ken Scott there as well. I can't remember, but anyway, it's really just fantastic. And then they're setting up to do the gig on the roof. And, Lindsay-Hogg's wandering around with his big fat cigar, talking to himself. But, the way he filmed it is terrific. I mean, he did 10 out of 10 for capturing the material, and he gets like 1 out of 10 for his final edit. But we get to the day of the rooftop gig, and the day before, Paul's still a little bit not sure, but Ringo and John are well up for it, and I think George can't be bothered because he likes being indoors. But anyway, they get up there, they do the gig, and the whole sequence of the rooftop is all shot in real time. And what was really nice about the rooftop gig, thinking about it, is that they did it at a lunchtime so that people that are working could see it on their lunch break. And that goes straight back to how the Beatles were in like 1960, 61, when they used to do lunchtime concerts at the Cavern. So that kind of, working class, we're entertaining the people thing was from their first gigs to their very last gig. And I thought that was really lovely. And then after they play on the roof, they go down into the control room. Oh, I've got to say, there's these coppers in it, these policemen that come in, and they are just like comedy policemen out of a village pantomime meets the policeman that was in LOLO. They're like a right pair of dibbles, and they sort of wander in. They said, "Oh, we've had 30 complaints." They're pretty dim. And then their sergeant comes along, and he's like something out of Trump. He looks like something out of Trumpton as he sort of marches in. But he's awfully posh, you know. In fact, everybody's in it posh, you know. Even the receptionist is posh. And what was really funny, they had this secret camera in the reception because they knew people would be coming in. And so they were filming all what was going on. And at the beginning of the day, George Martin walks in and he sort of looks at the camera and he's as if to say, yeah, I know what you're up to. And then he goes up to the control room and gets everything ready for the recording. And I'm pretty sure George Martin actually pretty much oversaw all of that rooftop recording. And I think they recorded it direct to 2-track, but I mean, I think they might have done it to 8 as well. I'm not terribly sure. But the other thing is, when the box set came out, which I reviewed a little while ago, some people were complaining, oh, there's not much rooftop on the box set. But actually, 3 of the songs that were on Let It Be were actually from the rooftop performance. So there's one other. So basically, you got all the songs that were on the rooftop in one form or another on the box set. Which I didn't know. I thought they used studio recordings throughout Let It Be, and there was just bits of Atmos and chitter chatter from the rooftop, but they were actually rooftop performances that they actually used on the album, which I didn't know. But yeah, and then at the end, they come down into the control room and they're listening through it, and they're all really happy with how it went. And then they decided, they'd finish off by doing the other 3 songs that they were going to do in the Apple studio. But as it turns out, there wasn't enough time to get all the gear off the roof and stuff in the studio, so they did it the next day. And of course, the last 3 songs they recorded was Long and Winding Road, Two of Us, and Get Back. Sorry, not Get Back, Let It Be. I'm a bit get backed out because I've heard that song at least 5 times today. The one thing I didn't like about it, and I didn't like it in the original Let It Be, is I just didn't like the way they'd set up the Apple studio for the filming. I thought it just looked a bit too dark. I think they could have lit up the background better. It looked much nicer when they were more informal. But you know, that's just a thing, really. But you know, I mean, they're still larking around in between cuts. And what they do is they don't actually show any of those performances in full like they do on the Let It Be film. They actually just show little snippets, and then there's bits of them goofing around and stuff as well. And I mean, it's great what Peter Jackson's done, because he has literally, apart from like a couple of songs on the roof, there is no overlap between this and the original Let It Be film. So, you know, if you want to see Two of Us, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road in their full performance, then you watch Let It Be. And of course, that looks like it's coming out on Blu-ray as part of the box set when the Peter Jackson thing comes out. I mean, Peter Jackson might well put those performances in full onto the Blu-ray. We don't know yet. I mean, rumours are that the Blu-rays are going to be extended from what's on Disney+, so we'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, it was just the most enjoyable, you know, 2.5 hours or whatever it was. And it's the whole thing about the narrative and the story of Let It Be. I mean, even when the Beatles talk about it on the anthology, they don't talk about it with it being, you know, fun or anything. They're just saying, it was a miserable time and we were going to break up. And it's like they didn't have access to this material, they don't remember it or what. It's just really odd, because you watch it and you know, yes, they could say it had all been saccharined and they took out any of the bad bits, but I think if you've had a bad argument with somebody in the morning, you carry that on for most of the day. So if they had been arguing all the time, they just wouldn't have been as cheery as they are in the film. And like I say, I mean, that whole period, those 3 weeks, they wrote pretty much they wrote all of Let It Be. They wrote 75-80% of Abbey Road. I mean, they're doing things like songs like Me, Mr. Mustard, Something. You know, I think the only song, I think even Polythene Power one of the early ones? I think it was. I think apart from the end, I mean, there's even a version of Her Majesty with the whole band playing it. You know, it's quite extraordinary. And then you've got George doing loads of songs, and George is there talking to John, saying he wants to think about making a solo album because he's written so many songs. And of course, you know, year or two later, George releases All Things Must Pass, which was, you know, absolutely a massive album. And then you've got, you know, other bits and pieces in there. You've got John doing On the Road to Marrakesh, which became Jealous Guy. There's Give Me Some Truth. I mean, there's just all these songs. Paul's Teddy Boy, which did make the cut for the Glyn Johns' first mix of Get Back as an album, but of course the song was then saved for Paul's first solo album. So yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely extraordinary watching this. I mean, there is so much to take in. I mean, I think really you've got to watch this. I mean, it's, you know, it's long, it's like 8 hours, and you've got to watch this 8 hours maybe 3 or 4 times to really take it all in, and I fully intend to do that. But yeah, it has just been the most exciting, fascinating piece of TV about music I've ever watched. I mean, I've been, you know, pretty obsessed with the whole Let It Be era for the last 20 years, ever since I first got hold of some of the Naga bootlegs. And, you know, and they're incomplete anyway. And apparently I was listening to the podcast from Dave Hepworth and Mark Ellen. They did a special one for people that are on their Patreon. And they said there's still actually 40 hours of other Naga recordings that are still missing. So what's on that? Who knows? Because a load of them got nicked. And I think that's how a chunk of them ended up as bootleg CDs before they got them back. But yeah, I mean, absolutely superb. I mean, it's just, as I said, it's the greatest documentary about music ever made, about the greatest band in the world making, to me, their finest album. I mean, that's a controversial statement, but it's the album I listened to first. It's the album that drew me into the Beatles, and it's my favourite Beatles album. And that's that, really. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed my little rambles about the Beatles' 3 parts of Get Back, and I hope you get to watch them. And yeah, if you've got any comments about it, leave them in the comments on the video. Anyway, I'm going off to see my mother now because it's Saturday. I'll catch you on the next video.